Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the first ever Miami Grand Prix. I know I say this every single week, but I am honestly so excited for this weekend because it's a brand new circuit and we've got no historical information to go off. So it's all a bit of an unknown, and I love that, should we say, unpredictability factor? Call it what you want, but I enjoy it. I really do think this one could be a lot of fun. And no, I'm not just talking about watching people dive into the fake water at the fake harbour, as amusing as that could be. And before I get into it, by the way, apologies for the lack of content since Imola. I just needed to step back and work on some stuff, as those of you who follow me on Twitter will know. But normal service has now been resumed, or whatever that is. Anyway, enough about all of that. Coming up, I'll go over some news ahead of the weekend and make some probably terrible predictions. But let's kick things off as we always do with a look at the usual round of track stats and some other bits you need to know ahead of this weekend. Now, last time out, F1 was at Imola for the first sprint weekend of the year, but now it's on to the Miami International Autodrome for round 5 already of the 2022 season. It'll be Christmas before you know it. A lap of the new track is 5.412 kilometres long, which if you work in miles comes in at just over 3.36 and is made up of a total of 19 corners. And the race on Sunday is set to run for 57 laps. As it stands at time of recording, there will be 3 DRS zones available to aid overtaking, with the first running between turns 9 and 11, the second down that long straight between turns 16 and 17, and the final one will run from turn 19 down the start-finish straight. And the reason I say at time of recording is because, of course, in Australia we had 4 and that was cut to 3, so we don't know if this could get cut to 2, but I would imagine it would stay at 3 for the first one. Obviously, there is no race lap record as we've never raced here before. However, according to McLaren, the predicted lap time is around about a 1 minute 35, and that's at a speed of 215 kilometers an hour with a top speed somewhere around 320 kilometers an hour. And it is expected that 58% of the lap will be spent at full throttle. Now, it may be a street track, but there are potential opportunities for some close racing and some overtaking. Turn 1 could be a good spot to make a move, as could turn 11, both corners, of course, preceded by a DRS zone. But surely the best place to try and pass an opponent has got to be turn 17, which is not only a bit of a hairpin, but is also followed by a long straight and a DRS zone. That said, it is ultimately a street track and overtaking is never easy and certainly is not without its risks. And there are some very narrow sections around the track actually as well, so that's only going to make it tougher. We shall see on Sunday, but I am quietly optimistic. I say quietly, I just said it, so it's not really all that quiet, but you get my point. And seeing as I'm looking at the McLaren info sheet, each of the 118 pit wall blocks weighs 6.5 tonnes, which is the same as the combined mass of the Miami Dolphins NFL squad. The more you know. Get that one written down. I don't know why you'd ever need to know it, but there you go. It's there for you. Okay then, grab some snacks, sit back, take a deep breath and brace yourself for everyone's favourite part of the preview. It's Tyre Talk time. I really need some kind of graphic or sting for that. Anyway, the compounds available for this weekend are the same as the last time out at Imola, which means they are the hard C2, the medium C3 and, shock horror, the soft C4. We should see quite a high level of track evolution over the course of the weekend, and the new surface is expected to offer some reasonable levels of grip according to Pirelli. It's not easy to pinpoint a strategy for this one, but the information again from Pirelli suggests that tyre stress should be moderate, although Mario Isola does state that with the teams expected to run a low to medium downforce setup, we could see a bit of sliding in the high-speed corners, especially on that harder compound. And Aston Martin has said that the pit lane lost time is actually predicted to be less than the average, and so that could open up the possibility of a multi-stop race. And if you throw in the potential of a safety car or two, we might just see a good mix of strategy. And just a reminder, by the way, we have seen a safety car at every race so far in 2022, so it is definitely very possible. As is always the case, though, teams are always going to try to make it a one-stopper if they can. Hopefully not, though. I'd quite like to see a marginal two-stopper. That would be good. When it comes to the weather, much of the weekend is expected to stay dry, but there is a lingering threat of a few showers. For the first 2 practice sessions on Friday, though, it should be dry and sunny with highs of 31 degrees for FP1 and 30 degrees for FP2, which is about 20 degrees higher than my comfortable temperature. Anyway, Saturday morning is currently expected to be very much the same, although slightly warmer at 32 degrees with qualifying taking place in almost identical conditions later that afternoon. And on Sunday, there is a higher risk of rain, although not all that high at around 30%, which means, as Martin Brundle would say, there's a 70% chance it will stay dry, but it will still be warm with highs of 33 degrees expected for the race on Sunday. That is the forecast at time of recording, which as ever is Wednesday evening, so that could easily change between now and the weekend. And your schedule for the weekend is a late evening one if you're in Europe, and to be honest, I'm really looking forward to a late one this weekend. I'd imagine we'll still be live with the race reaction on Sunday after midnight, which could be interesting. That's when I tend to go a bit delirious, but anyway, probably wouldn't make much of a change. FP1 will get the weekend underway from 7:30pm BST on Friday, with FP2 starting at 10:30pm. The third practice session of the weekend is from 6pm on Saturday, with qualifying starting at 9pm, and it is back to the usual format for this one, so no sprint in Miami. And it is lights out for the race on Sunday from 8:30pm, and once again, that is in UK time. Now, before I get onto my predictions, let's have a look at some of the stories that have been doing around since the last race at Imola. The big news over the last week is that we look set to see both Audi and Porsche join Formula One in 2026. Not as their own new teams, which is a shame, but it is still great to see two big names joining the sport. An official statement from the VW Group previously said that the green light for an entry would only be given once the new engine regulations were signed off. However, answering questions from Wolfsburg City residents, the group's CEO said Grand Prix racing was enjoying a boom in key markets like the USA, and the opportunities and all new rules set offers in 2026 means that an opportunity to make the move to F1 was currently there, and it would potentially not come around again for another decade. He even stated, if you do motorsport, you should do Formula One, as that's where the impact is greatest. He went on to add that the group's premium brands are prioritising entering the sport, and even went as far as to confirm that the VW name will not be involved, with both Audi and Porsche instead committing to entering F1 separately. It is still expected that Porsche will link up with Red Bull, and those plans are said to be more concrete, with Audi still looking to define how it wants to go about things, with talk of a potential buyout of either Aston Martin or Sauber floating around, and even talk of a potential collaboration with Williams. As for when we will see full and official confirmation, keep an eye on the Austrian Grand Prix weekend. After all, that is Red Bull's home race, and so announcing a deal with Porsche that weekend would make a hell of a lot of sense. However, that is all just guesswork at the moment, and so for now, you know what's coming. Watch this space. Moving on, and F1 is set to tweak qualifying in 2023 with a revised format taking place at select events. It's a decent change, but don't worry, it's not a complete overhaul. The FIA wants to cut back on the number of tyres used across a Grand Prix weekend, and last week plans were back to drop the number of sets used from 13 to 11 at 2 events next year to evaluate the impact of the reduction in tyre allocation on track running, with the overall intention to move to a more sustainable use of tyres in the future. Can you tell that was a quote? To accommodate that change, the tyre choice for each qualifying session at those 2 trial events will be mandated, rather than drivers being allowed to have a free choice. In the revised regulation, drivers will be forced to use the hard tyre in Q1, the medium in Q2, and the soft in Q3 unless the session is declared wet, in which case drivers can have free choice again. The allocation at those 2 events will also change, with drivers getting 3 sets of the hards, 4 of the mediums, and 4 of the softs. For comparison, the allocation is currently 2 hard, 3 medium, and 8 soft. The idea being that this will ensure drivers use a wider variety of tyres across a weekend, and should mean we see less waste. And just so you know, at time of recording, there is no confirmation yet on which 2 races next year will be trialling this new tweak thing that they're doing, whatever it is with tyres. That thing I just said. And finally, for this part, Mercedes believes it has found several directions in the wind tunnel that could help with its porpoising problems. I love alliteration. An issue both drivers, of course, have suffered badly with all season so far, and at times in Imola it looked pretty violent, actually. The team has worked around the problem by raising the ride height of the car, and that has come at the expense of a fair bit of lap time. But the team is still confident that if it can find a solution which allows for the car to be run lower to the ground and recover that lap time, they could potentially be challenging Red Bull and Ferrari at the front. And this weekend, the team is preparing to trial some car updates which might help them with that goal. And ahead of the weekend, Toto Wolff said that the team will be experimenting in Miami to correlate those several directions for improving the car they've discovered. And then hopefully we'll be able to confirm a development path for the coming races. Elsewhere, Williams head of vehicle performance Dave Robson admitted that compromises had to be made as engineering met marketing when the team stripped a load of paint off its car at Imola. He explained that the engineering team wanted to take even more off and perhaps even go as far as to strip the car back to bare carbon fibre in a bid to save weight. However, it was felt that the car needed to have what he called some visible personality, as well as being as quick as possible, which of course is also in the best interests of the team's sponsors. Robson added that the weight saved was meaningful, although he wasn't more specific about that, and went on to say he does not expect Williams to be in a position where they will be able to put the paint back on the car, as other solutions to getting that weight down will be more expensive and time consuming, and as they are happy with how the car looks right now, they feel they're better off spending that money on making the car quicker, which I think is fair enough. Now, there is no flashback this week because, of course, this is a brand new event and track, but it will be back for the Spanish Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. It will be back. So for this week, it is straight onto my predictions, and as ever, please don't take these too seriously. They are just a little bit of fun, and if you do disagree with my picks, then you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. And let's be honest, the less said about my last bunch, the better. They were absolutely bloody terrible. But what I will say is that I will never, ever predict Carlos Sainz to have a perfect weekend. That's a quote, ever again. Perfect weekend, Sean. It couldn't have gone much worse for the guy. I must admit, though, I do fancy Red Bull for this one. We've seen they are pretty rapid in a straight line, and we have got that long straight between turns 16 and 17. And to be fair, a pretty flat-out run from turn 9 to 11. And so that could set them up quite nicely, along with other areas you'd expect them to be strong as well, obviously. Then again, Mattia Binotto did say last week that Ferrari will be bringing a low downforce solution to Miami, and that could well keep them in play. To be honest, though, I think we are still set for another close battle between the two teams, but I am going to go for a Max Verstappen pole on Saturday and say he will convert that into victory on Sunday. And yes, I am going to go with Charles Leclerc for second place. But seeing as that feels a little bit safe, I will go bolder with my final podium spot and say that Lewis Hamilton bounces back from his disappointing weekend at Imola and maybe takes advantage of some drama or a safety car or something ahead of him to snatch P3. It must be said, though, if nothing much happens, I expect that third place to go to either Sergio Perez or Carlos Sainz, and I don't think that's a massively controversial statement. My outsiders for a podium, Mercedes aside, are Alpine again. I still do think if they get that car hooked up and don't get caught up in some bad luck, that they have got a very strong overall package and can challenge the likes of Mercedes and McLaren for big points. Yeah, it might need something to happen ahead of them, but as I've said so many times before, with Fernando Alonso at the wheel, anything is possible. And also, I know there are a lot of differences, but, you know, look at how they performed in Jeddah. They had a really good weekend there prior to Alonso's retirement. And again, very different track, but it is sort of a street track at Australia, where Fernando Alonso was set for an incredible qualifying lap until his weekend just fell apart with reliability problems. So keep an eye on Alpine this time. When it comes to some more bolder predictions, I'm going with Mick Schumacher to snatch his first ever point and say that Nicholas Latifi makes it into Q2 on Sunday, which I believe would be the first time this season if he pulled that one off. And one more, because why not? Let's go with a top 6 finish for Sebastian Vettel. I sound very confident on that one, don't I? As I said at the start of this video, though, I am really looking forward to this one. More so than I thought I would, if I'm being totally honest. Sure, people are poking fun at some of the gimmicks, and I've seen some negativity about the track, but ultimately, we haven't seen a single wheel turned on this track, and it could end up being an absolute classic and way better than some people seem to think. Which always baffles me, by the way, because I'm not sure how anyone could be 100% sure that a race will be pants without seeing at least one lap from any driver, but that's the interweb for you. Don't get me wrong, of course, it could be absolutely horrific, but I'm staying positive this one could be a cracker. I feel like I need to sit here and meditate and maybe send some positivity everybody's way, although I don't generally do positivity. That is it for the Miami Grand Prix preview then, but you can, as always, let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back soon with another video, and don't forget to join us live on Sunday shortly after the race has finished for the usual reaction stream. In the meantime, though, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help out the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.